Otherwise, it stops being about human rights and it becomes about geography. So I put out a video just over a week ago talking about Lewis Hamilton and Kim Kardashian and how their relationship is, well, not entirely coincidental. And the comments on that video got me thinking, because the sentiment towards Lewis Hamilton is sometimes he can come across as slightly hypocritical. Now, I've sat on this thought for a good few years. I'm talking 5 years. I have been sitting on this thought, but I think it's worth talking about. In 2021, F1 announced that it was going to race in Saudi Arabia for the first time. And look, F1 has been racing in the Middle East since 2004, so they've been there for quite a while. They began to then expand on those races in the Middle East, so we started getting more races there. And that's for a few reasons, and most notably for profit and for funding the rest of the racing calendar. I did a 2-parter on this, so go and check that out because I explained in detail how that process works. I was really excited when I heard that Formula One was heading to Saudi Arabia because I'm Muslim. So Saudi Arabia has a pretty big importance to many Muslims because that's where we perform our pilgrimage. It's where our religion originated. It's where the Kaaba is. It's where our Prophet's mosque is. It's where he's buried. So it has a lot of importance and a lot of symbolism to Muslims. So to hear that the most global and most prestigious sport in the world was heading to Saudi Arabia was pretty exciting. And it really did feel like Muslims were starting to get the representation they never had. We started seeing Muslims in the paddock, hijabis in the paddock. It was actually insane to see that because it's something that's never been seen before. So it felt special. It felt like finally we're a part of this world as well. And then Lewis Hamilton started talking. I'll link the article down below, but he said that he didn't feel comfortable racing in Saudi Arabia and he thought they had terrifying laws, specifically regarding the rights of LGBTQ people, women's rights, and the rights of migrant workers. And he's made multiple comments multiple times around other Middle Eastern races. And that felt slightly disappointing because yes, these countries have their issues, but as a Muslim, to see yourself represented in a space where you were never represented is a big thing. Lewis has probably got one of, or if not one of the biggest platforms in Formula One. So anything he says, you best believe it's going to be taken seriously and people are going to give it real weight. So I was slightly younger at this time, but I was actually really excited to see F1 go race in the Middle East. And the way that he framed these countries was as if they were some sort of dystopian hellhole and none of us should ever go there or look in that direction because they have terrifying laws, right? We should avoid them completely, blanket ban. I think there was genuine concern in those comments. But that framing, it flatters the entire region. It flatters everybody who lives in that region or is associated to it into the worst possible headlines. And the actual people inside those regions, they don't have a microphone or a platform as big as Lewis Hamilton to push back and say, hey, wait, the framing of this is a bit unfair. And now look, before you accuse me of being the biggest Lewis hater ever and supporting autocratic regimes, let me put something into perspective. These countries absolutely have records of human rights abuses. I am not denying that. And I visited the Middle East, right? It's not perfect. These countries, they have good things going for them, but there's also not so great things. This reminds me now that we're actually talking about this. Last year at the Monaco GP, I think it was somebody from Sky Sports, right? They interviewed Oscar Piastri and I think he had just moved to Monaco and they were asking him, how do you find Monaco? And Monaco is deemed to be the crown jewel of Formula One. It's supposedly perfect in the eyes of many. It's rich, it's luxurious, all these things, right? And I remember him saying that he said something like, in some ways it's great, but it's also pretty dystopian because it feels like it's so detached from the real world. And that really stuck because it shows you that, yes, there's this place that is so wealthy and is so luxurious and incredible, but it absolutely has its baggage. And it's the same for every country and every city. They all have their issues. And I'm not saying that Lewis shouldn't be criticizing any country, specifically these countries, but what I am saying is if you're going to criticize those countries, you best be willing to criticize other countries consistently, especially Western ones. Because where's that same energy when it comes to America? F1 races in America 3 times a year. Miami, Las Vegas, and Texas. I think there's either 4 or 5 races in the Middle East, and There's 3 in America, 3 in one country. And now America in 2026 has legislated abortion bans across multiple states, one being Texas. That's the rights of women actively being taken away. Reproductive rights are women's rights. And in some states of America, those are non-existent. ICE raids are rampant all over the country, especially in Florida, where we go racing every year. In Miami, children are being separated from their parents. People are being killed for protesting, which is a right. Voting rights are being eroded and the rights of trans people are being legislated against. The political landscape in America has shifted drastically over the last few years. These are all current documented issues and F1 keeps racing there. And I don't see Lewis Hamilton saying anything about the human rights abuses that are going on in America right now. And that's because Lewis lives in America. His production company is there. The F1 movie is American. His girlfriend is American. His entire post-racing image and his brand has its base there. So America isn't just this country that he flies to once a year, he races in and he comments on. America is home. And you don't criticize home in the same way. So Lewis can absolutely talk about the human rights abuses in other parts of the world and the Middle East if he wants to. He can do that. But I think if you're going to make those comments, then also be willing to make the same comments about other countries, especially the one that you live in. Otherwise, it stops being about human rights and it becomes about geography. And I want to caveat because this isn't unique to just Lewis. It's a pattern across Western liberal activism. Certain parts of the world are deemed necessary to criticize. It's almost obligated. But criticism of other parts of the world, especially Western ones, that's considered unpatriotic. And I'll give you an example. In 2022, Qatar hosted the World Cup. And before that event kicked off, there was an immense amount of backlash towards Qatar hosting because of the human rights abuses. Workers were dying on site. It was deemed unfit to host a World Cup. And people were worried for their safety and their rights before going. And then it kicked off. And like every single World Cup, everybody sits down and they get ready to watch the opening ceremony. Yay, exciting times. So I remember sitting down to watch it and it was being broadcasted on the BBC in the UK. We turn it on and what do we see? Gary Lineker and a bunch of other presenters. So instead of broadcasting the actual event, they decided to give us their hot take. And they talked about how terrible Qatar was and how they've abused the rights of workers. The entire opening ceremony was cut. And people were absolutely furious because despite everything, despite all the controversy and the backlash, when people sat down, they wanted to see that ceremony. Because when that event kicks off and when the sport starts and it's time to play football, nobody cares. People want to see the sport. They want to see the event. They don't give a damn about all the rest of the stuff, the politics and all the controversy behind it. They just want to watch the event and the football. But the BBC decided that they knew better and they were going to decide what people were going to see. And that did not go down well for them. They were heavily criticized for that. And now I don't want to turn this into a football conversation, but yes, Qatar has its issues, but they also hosted a fantastic World Cup. And I know many football fans, including myself, absolutely enjoyed it because it was brilliant. And there were some fantastic moments and it has stayed with us. And now we're heading to the Americas for the next one. And people are genuinely questioning if we should be going, given what's going on there, given the state of the country. So yeah, I guess the tides are turning. So back to my point, Lewis didn't invent this kind of positioning and this kind of framing. He's simply just echoing what's already out there and what already exists. But because he's got such a large platform and such a loud platform, his version gets amplified far more than any other. And I want to add as a final point, another reason why America kind of gets a pass is because Liberty Media, who own the sport, where are they from? America, American conglomerate. America's their home. So yeah, they're going to protect it and they're not going to let anybody say, oh wait, what are you doing? Why are you racing in Miami? Because they made that happen. So it's very unlikely that that's going to change. But point is, if you're going to criticize one place, make sure you criticize the other when they do the exact same thing. Oof. So I feel like I had to get that off my chest because honestly, I have been sat on this thought for like 5 years and yeah, I just wanted to voice it because it's it's been in my head for a long time, so I felt like it had to get out there. But yeah, go and watch the Lewis and Kim video if you haven't seen it. And I still think Lewis is a fantastic driver. Like, he has the track record to prove it, okay? He's got the titles, people. He's got them. And I think the work that he's done around activism with Mission 44, with what he said around racism, I think that's all fantastic stuff. I just feel like sometimes it can come off across slightly tokenistic. So I just wanted to put that out there. Let me know if you've enjoyed this video. I didn't have a script for this video. I just had a couple of points that I talked through. But let me know if you like this style, because I am trying to do more formats. Also, talking for like X amount of minutes straight is really, really hard. I have just learned this. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.